they've had to often be brave and say, even though everybody else is saying this isn't going to work,
Yeah.
I believe in this.
Yeah.
And so you're right. That's necessary, but at some point you have to see through that and say, you know what, this time I have to listen to what I'm hearing. I have to do something different.
Well, hi, everybody. Welcome to The Unscripted Leader. Today, we are very happy to have Pete Steege on with us today. And for those who don't know, he's the best-selling author of the new book, Radical Clarity: How Accidental CEOs Unlock Meaning and Lead with Purpose and Accelerate Growth, right? Pete, really nice to have you on. Obviously, we know each other a little bit. So it's even better that we can talk about the things that we both have in common. So welcome to the show. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks, Steve. It's great to be here. Like you said, we've talked so many times. It's fun to do it on the camera.
Yeah, this is great. So radical clarity, we both talk a lot about leadership and, how we can lead with purpose and how we can lead with authenticity. Tell me a little bit about the thought behind your book and how you came to, putting together radical clarity.
Well, I like to say I'm a rewired engineer. So I actually started as an electrical engineer a long time ago, and went through, after doing that for a few years and creating things, and which I really enjoyed. I found myself moving into the business side, marketing, sales, operations throughout my career, and I realized I've kind of learned from that. It's a very different kind of a role than a very technical role. And then when I started my own business 5 years ago, I started working with B2B tech CEOs to help them grow their business. And what I found they almost all had in common was they were what I call these accidental CEOs. And that means they were a tech expert, and it might be domain expertise. It doesn't have to be, engineering, but they were really good at this thing. And they were so good at it, they found themselves either leading a business or starting a business, and because they wanted their thing to get out in the world.
Sure.
And they wake up one day and they're a CEO, and oh my God, I don't know how to do this. And so I've been realizing that that's really the problem that I solve. And so this book is a culmination of what I've learned in my career, what I've learned as an accidental CEO myself, and what I've learned in working with these CEOs that struggle with this. So the book is about how to grow your business if you're an accidental CEO.
Sure. And, we both end up working with folks in the same sphere. So I encounter this very often, right? You have a founder or some sort of leader that has grown the business beyond their own capacity, beyond their own expertise, or certainly beyond their own time. And the challenges they face, encompass everything in their business. What do you think are the top ones that these kinds of leaders that accidentally or grew beyond their initial expertise? What do you think are those top challenges that they're facing?
Well, the one that comes to mind first, Steve, is they're trying to do too much. So I found that most times when I work with somebody, the solution is not what we add, it's what we take away from what they're thinking, what their business is doing, the markets they're serving. They are way too broad on all those things, which means they're overcommitted, so they're not doing anything well. It means that their message is watered down because it's trying to talk to a bunch of different people because they don't want to leave anybody out. So that's number one. I'd say the second thing is related directly to this expertise they have. It's so common for accidental CEOs to see the world as somebody that's just waiting to hear the good news about this cool thing that they made, the capabilities of it, and it is a good thing. They're really good at what they do. So the product is exciting, but they make the mistake of thinking that message of what they do is going to break through to these very busy skeptical, almost paranoid prospects that they just don't have time to hear you tell them about your product. What they really need to hear is how you can help them with the problem that's on their mind. And so I'd say those are the two biggest, almost in every case. They're just sitting there to be solved.
It's so funny. Our work is so similar, and with clients, I would say if you said it more eloquently than I would, but certainly those are the two I see. And what's interesting, and I'll just expound on that second one a little bit. Um, you know, working with clients and growing their sales and growing their sales team and structuring their sales, I also see a perspective of the business that is sometimes rooted in this myopathy of, product, or, craftsmanship or manufacturing, whatever that expertise of the owner is. And so then, all these other functions are kind of bolt-ons, right? And the perspective is sometimes, and I'd be interested in how you talk through this, but this product can sell itself. What is wrong with my sales team, right? Or what is wrong with my marketing team, right? This thing should just be flying off the shelves, and often the answer isn't, that the product, isn't as good as we think. That there's other stuff going on, right? Structural issues, maybe engagement issues, certainly oftentimes leadership issues, right? If folks don't feel engaged and empowered, they're going to do the bare minimum, all those kinds of things. And I'm sure you encounter that. What kinds of conversations do you have with someone who kind of gets in that myopic thinking, not necessarily intentionally, just based on their experience, right?
Well, and I totally agree with you, Steve. That's exactly, I see the same things. One thing that it's kind of a touchy feely topic, which is not always easy to get through with, a technical expert who's now a leader, but it's this idea of meaning. And I believe that businesses that grow are the businesses that are able to communicate meaning to their prospects. So it's related to what we talked about, right? Solving a problem. But businesses that are all about the product, like you said, they're product centric, not just the marketing or the sales, but the product development, the team conversations, the work culture. When it's focused on the thing, that's a real shallow purpose. Um, and so what I find is when I can work with a leader and work together with them on what I call their true story, which is, let's set aside all of our capabilities first, and let's talk about why you created this business or why your business exists. Maybe you didn't even
Hmm.
create it, and it comes back to some mission, right, or purpose. They want to solve a problem for somebody. And, yes, a successful business has revenue, but at its core, it's about them solving this problem, right?
Hmm.
So I found that if we can get to that true story, who exactly do we help? Because they're often not specific enough.
Yeah.
How exactly, what is it we do that's special that can help them? And how is it better for them, right? When we get to that story, uh, that's the anchor that it's not just about a message in the market, it's about product priorities,
Mm.
it's about team alignment, right?
Yep.
When you get the team on board with this is why we're here, then their ability to do their job doesn't change, isn't disruptively reactive every week
Sure.
something different happens,
Sure.
right? And a new
The
competitor or
initiative of the week, right?
yeah, right? Inside or outside the company.
Yeah.
And when they have that, that's so important. And it's just something they don't think about, right? And so many
Yeah.
people don't. It's so much about what do we do,
Hmm.
product or business, versus who are we? Why? What is it? Who are we?
You mentioned alignment in there. Much of what my work requires me to kind of align this vision of an owner, and sometimes help them clarify what that is. But that's also then align that with or align the sales team with understanding what that means. What does that mean every day? How does that unlock engagement for us? Right, it gives us a lot of freedom when we know that this is the course that's charted, and we don't need a whole lot of barriers to run at it. We know where the end goal is. One of the things you mentioned in your book, though, that I found very interesting, is that this kind of idea of leadership story and how it attracts opportunities to us. Right. Certainly, I understand, and we've talked before about how the leadership story aligns the organization and aligns people. But tell me a little bit about. I'd like to explore, like, when you say it attracts the opportunities. What do you mean by that?
I have this vision, a very simple view of how businesses work, really.
Yeah.
It's related to this purpose idea. And I'll summarize and say the message is make room for meaning in your business.
Hmm.
So, what that looks like is
Make room for meaning.
make
Like it.
room for meaning. And this gets to the point about there's all this stuff that's happening because who knows why.
Right.
It's crowding out the important stuff.
Yeah.
And I believe that if you truly have that value that you can create for this target audience, the biggest reason it's not activating, it's not happening, whether it's sales or any other part of the business, is that there's things in the way that you either put things in the way or there are roadblocks that you need to remove or friction that you need to decrease. So what I like to say is there's two steps to this. It's very simple. It's hard to do, but it's very simple.
All right. Get your pens and paper. Everyone.
Ready?
Here
Number
it is.
one, find your truth.
Yeah.
We already talked about that.
Yeah.
Number two, get out of the way.
Get out of the way.
So it's looking at your business rather than what you add for what is blocking that attract. So that it's basically saying if you create this valuable thing, the attraction is there.
Yeah.
You just have to get out of the way of so they can see it and feel it
Yeah.
and be drawn to it.
Yeah. I'd be interested. We should talk more about that a little bit. What does that look like in practice?
So yeah, that's great. I'll tell you an exercise that we often do that's really helpful. Customer journeys. It's a common tool in sales and marketing. I like to use customer journeys more holistically as a diagnostic for just what I described. So what we do is we get together with the leaders in a room, right? And we know who we're targeting, so we picture them. We know what we offer, and we do an aspirational conversation about, okay, in a perfect world, you've got this business here. What would it look like if it's working right? What's the experience that target audience has with you from the very first time they hear about you to when they're curious and they reach out, to when they commit to an order, to when they first use the product, to when they repurchase it, to when now they're an advocate and they love talking about you, right? That's
Right.
the 6-7 stages. And we at each stage we say, okay, well, what are we assuming in a perfect world? Oh, well, they'd see us on LinkedIn or they'd get a referral, right? Whatever it is, we talk it through. And what changes for them, what behavior and thoughts change for them to go to that next stage, next stage, and next stage.
Yeah.
So that's not easy, but it's very doable, right? And we go through the detail of those stages. If we do all that and that happens, we're highly confident we're going to grow and be successful, right?
Yeah.
Here's the magic part, and this is where it gets to getting to the diagnostic. Okay, now let's do it again. And rather than talking about what we want it to be, what is it actually today?
What does it look like today?
Right? And when you do that, what quickly happens is you see, oh, we're doing pretty good on this step, but this step is not going well. And this other step, it's totally blocked. They're going around it, right?
Right.
Those are your priorities for the business. And it
Yeah.
could be product related, it could be marketing related, it could be sales related, it could be operationally related, it could be any of those things. And that I found that's the things that are in the way.
Yeah. So, here's a natural, logical journey that somebody's gonna, walk through with us to become a delight repeated customer. And here's the things that we're getting in the way and preventing that from happening smoothly.
Yes.
So I talk about operational and client friction, right? And so it sounds kind of similar to that, right?
There
Let's
you go.
remove
Friction.
that friction, right?
Same thing.
I like it. Yeah, that makes good sense. And then you had talked a little bit about, and I'd like to talk a little more about it. Um, this leadership story, right? And I think that's the term that I saw in the book. This leadership story, a lot of my work is around authentic leadership and how do we lead with authenticity, right? We have many of my clients want some help in how they can better lead their organization, yet they bump up against, well, this isn't really me, right? This isn't
Mm,
me. And we're talking about tactics and actions, as opposed to taking the step back and talking about, well, who are we really? Because if we
yeah.
know who we are, this conversation is pretty easy, right?
Yes.
If we value being honest and upfront with people, we don't have to think as much about that conversation, right? But you mentioned purpose driven, right?
Mhm.
And this idea of purpose driven. How do you define purpose driven? What does that mean? It sounds like it's similar to authenticity, but I'd love to hear kind of your definition and your thoughts.
Yeah. I believe that business CEOs that tap into the power of this meaning go through kind of a three-step dance, if you will. Uh, Clarity, meaning, purpose. So clarity, we've kind of talked about. It's the idea that you if you don't slow down and turn down the volume in your business and take time to be quiet, that you can't uncover that truth, the true story, the leadership story, and you need that. So clarity leads to meaning, right? If you simplify and clear out things, you find that meaning, you uncover it. But meaning by itself is not going to drive your business. You need to, first of all, share that with your team. So it's shared meaning. So you're all on the same page. You're all going the same way. So there's leadership there. And then to get to purpose, you need to activate it, right? You need to turn it into initiatives and priorities and outcomes that because you have that shared meaning with your team, that then can it's not hard to get people to rally around that. And better yet, as you grow and you have a lot more than the 5 employees maybe that you started with, and you can't be in the room with everybody, they they've got it inside so that they can, you're speaking to them even when you're not in the room because you've put this purpose in place. So it really gets back to this idea that leadership, and even in $100 million organization with hundreds of employees, if it doesn't every day really, the CEO doesn't refer or just rhyme with the purpose, the reason we're here, and it's simple.
Hmm.
It's probably, when I've been successful, and we usually find these 3 words, 2, 3, or 5 words,
Hmm.
that when we uncover them, everybody in the team goes, "Oh, that's it. That's what we do." And it's clear
Hmm.
and it's intuitive. And then they can use those same words with their prospects. And I'm not saying it's a tagline, right? That's a meaning that you
Yep.
translate into all the
Yep.
tools you need. But it's a simple truth that provides the anchor for the leadership that scales with the business and allows.
Yeah.
And I also wanted to mention, you mentioned about the CEOs sometimes being uncomfortable. Um, I can't be this leader.
Yeah.
And I think that's very similar to how we said their gut reaction for product or for messaging is to talk about what they do.
Hmm.
The good news is they don't have to be a certain type of a person. They don't have to be a certain charismatic anything. They can be who they are,
Yep.
authentic. The key is it's not about them. It's about this purpose for the business.
Yeah.
And they're just the delivery of that, right? The authentic person they are can do that. They don't have to pretend to be somebody they're not.
Yeah. And you know we're so similar minded with this. And the trick is um, often for me is helping them understand we're going to communicate because we're this is passionate, or this is something that we're passionate about, right?
Yes.
What we know
It's
that,
real. It's real
yeah,
stuff.
it's real, right? We know that we've hit the right, message, right? The right vision, the right thing that engages our people when you're passionate about it, right? What are you passionate about
Yes.
that that um, can engage others? And and it's always okay if it doesn't engage everyone, right? And it's okay that not everybody, either on the staff or as you mentioned earlier, client wise, it's okay if not every potential client or every potential employee or even our current staff is engaged, and that's the bus they want to hop on. That's
Yep.
okay. It
Yep.
means some potential decision points later down the road, um, but it's your business, right?
Yeah.
And what are you passionate about, and how can we link that? And I often talk about linking, right? How do we link this and engage the rest of the staff? And it's fun, and I know you've seen this 100 times, but when the light bulb goes off, right? When we
Yeah.
have a good conversation with a small team, and all of a sudden people are like, got it, and they're energized and they're excited. It's like, oh well, why didn't you say so, almost, right?
Yeah.
And it finally clicks with them, and then I have that conversation with them after, and it clicks, it clicks with the owner as well. And that's just awesome, right? And
That's my favorite part of this whole thing.
that's why we do it, right?
Yeah.
We both got into this to help folks, right? And
Yeah.
what benefits and what opportunities have been presented to us, being able to pass those on. And I think if I can share, right? I know, I think you and I have talked about this, but um, business owners have a real challenge, right? I mean, it is an emotional game, right? Especially the small and medium-sized business owners, where they're still growing, they're trying to figure out how to scale, they're doing 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 jobs, right? And they're working long hours, and that spills into everything they do, right? When they go home at night, they're I don't care how long they've been doing it, how great they are. They're thinking about it, right? They're thinking about that problem that came up today, or that problem they're trying to figure out this month. And so when things aren't going great, or they're encountering a challenge that's frustrating, that encompasses their whole life. And what a um, for me, what a blessed opportunity to be able to help impart some sort of support to folks that are struggling through that. And they don't need to, right? That's the fun part. They don't need to. Um, yeah, and that leads me to the founder led everything doesn't scale, right? Um, how do you have the conversation with what I'll call, and I'm sure you've had clients like this, and folks ask you questions. Um, they want it, but they're reluctant, they're resistant. Hey, I don't want to lose control of my culture. I don't want to, I don't want to be too soft, or I don't want to lose control of management in my organization, and that's why I have to be in every single meeting every day. All those things, those crazy things they tell us. How do you get somebody by that, through that?
That's a good question, Steve. I found that uh, it it only happens when they have been bumping their head against a brick wall for long enough, where they know they have to do something different. Humility is, I like to say, if I'm working with a CEO and they want to tell me how to do, they're trying to convince me on how to do things right. I'm not saying I'm an expert, but that says to me they're not ready to they're not ready to believe that something beyond them is going to help them, because that's how you grow, right? When you're humble, it's a growth mindset. So I'm kind of cheating. The answer is they have to be open to it, and if they are, then we can have a conversation. But there's tools, there's things that we can do to have them let go, and it's scary, but you're going to be better off. And then hopefully they have a success right from that, and they go, oh my god, this is so much better. So then they're motivated to take more chances and to work through the fear of it.
Yeah, it's one of those challenges that I encounter that I've had to put a lot of thought into, right? And I'm sure like you, when I take on like a consulting client or some project, right? I have the 50-50 or 80-20 rule, and hey, if you're about 50% signed on to this, it's not going to work. 50% is zero to me. Um, but if you're 80% on, um, and you can stay 80% or greater, let's talk about the 20%. But just know we're talking about 20%. We're not talking about 50. So if you can be 80% on, I can help you with the other 20%, but there's going to be some challenging questions, right? And like you said, I mean, if they're not at a place where, hey, I've tried stuff and I need help, it's very difficult to get them to 80%, which is good and bad, right? And I actually had a great conversation not that long ago with one of my clients, and I said, I love that you're stubborn, right? I said, because you wouldn't have gotten to where you are with your business after 12 years, right? $25
Right.
million. I mean, not everybody can do that. That is a unique gift,
Yes.
right? Um, and unfortunately, your gift comes with it some challenges, and that's why we're here talking, right? Don't stop being stubborn. It's not that you're stubborn that it's not working. We just have to find a way to get that other 20%, and yeah, no, it happens all the time, right? Because these folks are inherently used to doing it their way and driving a business to success, and you know it's always that question of what got you here may not get you to the next
Right.
step, right?
Because you're so
Uh,
right. For them to succeed as a CEO uh, for a tech B2B company, they've had to they've had to often be brave and say, even though everybody else is saying this isn't going to work,
yep,
I believe in this.
yep.
And so you're right. That's necessary, but at some point you have to see through that and say, you know what, this time I have to listen to what I'm hearing. I
Yep.
have to do something different. And it's a real you're right. It's a really difficult evolution or growth. It's a growth for these leaders.
I'll just share the leap of faith, right? Um, when you started, I often will tell this story when we're talking about this. When you started your business, there was this leap of faith that you felt comfortable and confident. You buttoned up your bootstraps and you jumped ahead, right? And you said, "I'm going to make this thing successful." Well, this is another leap of faith, right? You're facing another one, and you're trusting the wisdom and conversation from between us to get you to the next step. So take this next leap of faith too, right? And that often helps, right? And we'll talk about decisions, the old Google thing, right? There are some things you can take back, and there's other things you can't take back, right? So, we're not going to go through any one-way doors without really thinking through it, right? So, one-way door being, you can't take it back, right? But a two-way door, hey, look, we may, I may give you new ideas to try, and the good news is, if they don't work, we can take a step back, right? This isn't forever. This isn't a permanent thing, and getting them through that, much of our job, right, Pete, and with your book too, it's about a little bit of therapy and coaching and
Yeah.
getting through that emotional baggage and that emotional wall that sometimes they're facing, right? So, uh, tell me a little bit about your book and where folks can sort of find it and that sort of stuff. I admit I haven't gotten all the way through it, but I got my copy, and as you can tell, I read a bunch, and the good news is that our conversations are very similar. So, um, Pete Steege, everybody, where can they find your stuff?
I have created a landing page with some bonus resources for your listeners, Steve,
Nice,
and they can get that on my website at b2b-clarity.com /unscripted.
nice,
That's b2b-clarity.com /unscripted. And there'll be an easy way to order the book. It's available paperback, hardcover, Kindle and audiobook coming soon.
Oh, nice.
But there's also things like an online questionnaire on to give you an understanding of where you stand on the accidental CEO spectrum.
Sure.
Some bonus resources from the book and some other tools.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much, Pete. It's good to have you on. It's always good to chat with you. We'll have to grab coffee or lunch here again after I get through the book, because you know me, I'll probably have lots of questions. So thank you very much for providing resources for the listeners. And it's www.b2bclarity.com/unscripted.
Unscripted. There's a dash between the B2B and the Clarity too.
There we go. Okay, and we'll put it up on the screen maybe in post-production here. But Pete, thank you very much for coming on. I appreciate it. And everybody out there, thank you for listening and joining us today for Unscripted Leadership with Pete Steege. Thank you very much, Pete, for coming on.
Thanks, Steve.
Yeah, appreciate you.